I can't really judge science. So when I'm disagreeing, or it looks like I'm disagreeing with science or scientists, I'm not really. I'm just picking this low-hanging fruit that happens to be the exact thing, just happens to be the exact thing that I know how to do it. Find out when somebody's full of crap. You just watched this live stream. I just did it on a whole bunch of questions. So that's my skill. Can I not doubt a scientist? If the scientist happens to blunder into my special skill, meaning that they said something that I can just look at, and with no experience in science whatsoever, I can just look at it and say, I don't have to be a scientist for that one. Wild story from a person you don't know with no other physical evidence. Credibility is always zero. Now, remember, again, if you're new to my live streams, credibility does not mean it didn't happen. There are things that don't sound credible, and then you find out, oh, shoot, that actually happened. That didn't sound credible to me at all, and it did happen. So when I talk about credibility, it's statistical, not a guarantee. Researchers are looking into the benefits of vitamin D for coronavirus. Boston researchers at Brigham and Women's Hospital are going to do some kind of a trial to see if vitamin D can lessen the severity of COVID symptoms, and they're going to see if it actually can help you from getting it in the first place, actually protect you prophylactically. Now, here's the question I have about this. What? Well, why are they just beginning to test this? What are we, 10 months since the pandemic started? No, 12 months since the pandemic started. And we're just trying to figure out if vitamin D works? Now, I know that there have been there's lots of scientific indication that it could work or should work because it has that kind of antiviral protective kind of benefit in general. But it took us this long to even begin the test? Really? Because it was sort of the most obvious thing to test from day one, because there's a correlation between having low vitamin D and bad outcomes. But it doesn't mean that's causation. It could be just a correlation. That's what they'll test. At the same time, over in the UK, the National Health Service is now offering free vitamin D for anybody who they define as high risk. So if you're, say, a senior citizen, you have some comorbidities, the government will give you vitamin D to supplement you. So they must think it works, or at least the risk management of it working is good because the risk is low. But if it works, it'd be great. So a number of people have been giving me credit for suggesting that vitamin D would make a difference last February, but I'm not like the person who invented that idea. So I'd love to take credit, but there are lots of people who knew that vitamin D would be important for your general health, so why wouldn't it be important for this? And I want to say something that I've said a few other times, but I like to put it in better wording sometimes because it helps the message. I think you should trust science whenever science is doing something that you don't know anything about and you don't have any insight that would tell you to trust them or not. Or when I say trust science, I mean trust that the process can move you from being wrong to being half right to being right if you do everything right and you wait long enough. The problem is you never know where you are in that journey. Are you at the beginning of the journey where you're wrong about everything in science, or you're at the end where you finally figured it out? Or are you in the middle where you're not right yet either? So when I disagree with science, the reason that I do it is that there's something about it where my special skill of identifying BS applies. So for example, in climate change, when scientists say, hey, CO2 added to the atmosphere will cause this warming effect, you've never seen me criticize that. Why would I? What do I know about chemistry? Zero. What do I know about physics? Nothing. So I don't criticize things that I don't know anything about. Now, I don't know if science is quite right or if there'll be more right later, but there's plenty of science that says CO2 should warm the atmosphere, all other things being equal. So, but you do see me question the 80-year economic projection. That's because I can recognize obvious BS, and that's obvious BS, but I can't really judge science. So when I'm disagreeing, or it looks like I'm disagreeing with science or scientists, I'm not really. I'm just picking this low-hanging fruit that happens to be the exact thing, just happens to be the exact thing that I know how to do it. Find out when somebody's full of crap. You just watched this live stream. I just did it on a whole bunch of questions. So that's my skill. Can I not doubt a scientist? If the scientist happens to blunder into my special skill, meaning that they said something that I can just look at, and with no experience in science whatsoever, I can just look at it and say, I don't have to be a scientist for that one, right? Like an 80-year economic projection. You don't have to be a scientist to know that's bullshit. That's just obvious. All right, it's obvious if you have a certain amount of experience. If you're under 40, well, maybe a little less obvious. If scientists disagree, it's appropriate to doubt. Yes, of course. And that would be part of the scientific process. Somebody says, you have no scientific training. Okay, I'm going to stop you there. User Digital Zep. What did you think that comment was addressing? When you say, Scott, you have no scientific training, are you disagreeing with me when I said, I have no scientific training? I don't even know why some people make comments. You're not surrounding yourself in glory. Do we care where the science is from? We should. You know about how many nerves the human body has. Do I? I don't even understand that. No scientific training equals appeal to authority fallacy. Well, yeah, if you don't have your own skill, you kind of don't have a choice. You kind of have to believe the experts or else just guess.